Welcome to Trent Voices, the Trent University Alumni Affairs podcast, usually from Alumni House at Champlain College. I'm your host, Donald Fraser of Alumni Affairs, and this is a special TrentUCares COVID-19 broadcast. Now, I say that we're usually at Alumni House, and we usually are, but Trent University, like campuses right across Canada, is currently responding to the need for physical distancing. But we're not going to let that get in the way. We're starting a brand new mini-series of interviews where we talk to alumni about the work that they're doing in their own communities to help with the pandemic crisis. We're also talking to them about their thoughts on the COVID-19 situation and how the virus is affecting their own lives and their careers as well. We're going to be talking to Trent faculty about how they think the Trent experience has prepared graduates for the work that they're doing today, again, in light of the pandemic crisis. You can follow along on this interview series by visiting trentu.ca/alumni or by following us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or LinkedIn. And again, you can find links to all of our social media right on our webpage, trentu.ca/alumni. And for our first week, we're going right to the front lines. We're pleased to welcome Scott Wight and Natalie Beavis, two graduates of the Trent Fleming Nursing Program, as well as Dr. Kirsten Woodend, Associate Professor and Dean of the Trent Fleming School of Nursing. Folks, welcome. I do want to start with Dr. Woodend. It is Nurses Week, and as a Nurses Week, really unlike any we've seen before, either in Canada or across the world, it has particular significance this time around. Dr. Woodend, tell me a bit about the significance of Nurses Week, particularly in light of the pandemic crisis.
Well, not only is this Nurses Week, but this year is the International Year of the Nurse and Midwife. And this juxtaposition of the International Year of Nurses and Midwives with the worst public health crisis that we've seen in 100 years is quite an interesting one. And I don't know if as many of you are fascinated by Florence Nightingale as I am, but tomorrow is her 200th birthday, and that's why this is the International Year of Nurses and Midwives. And she was very familiar with infectious disease. And she wrote a book called Notes on Nursing, What It Is and What It Is Not. And her advice at the time was that true nursing ignores infection except to prevent it. Cleanliness and fresh air from open windows with unremitting attention to the patient are the only defense a true nurse either needs or asks. She didn't just function at the bedside, though. And she was very active in terms of writing about contagious diseases and did a lot of work, for instance, on biostatistics and graphing disease when she did her work in the Crimea. And Dr. Farr is one of the early epidemiologists. And in a 1866 letter to Dr. Farr, she says, "Indeed, I think it most lamentable and almost a signal of the retrogression of England in these matters to see the want of any efficient action or organization in such an outbreak as far as measures of prevention go. Nursing functions from the bedside to shaping policy. We operate across a broad span. And this year's theme is Nurses, a voice to lead, nursing the world to health." And I find the voice of nursing is often ignored, considering our numbers and our strong preparation, as you will see in both Scott and Natalie. We have a lot to contribute. And even now in the middle of SARS, our roles and our voices are somewhat conflated in the discussions about frontline workers. You're not as much seeing the unique role and the unique contribution of nurses. And so I'd just like to close off by saying I'm very proud to be a nurse. I'm really proud to work with the nurses that I work with and to have worked with Scott and continue to work with Natalie. And reaching out to say Happy Nurses Week to every nurse. But this is a really unique time for us to really shine and show how we can nurse the world to health.
And that's wonderful, and thank you very much. And that does go out to nurses all across Canada, and we do have nursing grads all across Canada and all around the world right now. So again, Happy Nurses Week to all of them, and particularly to my guests here today. How does it feel when the head of the department is giving you a shout out like that, guys? I'll start with Scott.
Oh, I mean, it's great. And Kirsten has been such a support for nursing and advocate for nursing. And we got to work together really in my final year of nursing at Trent. And we had a great time, and I learned a lot. And she's certainly been a role model for sure.
Great. Natalie.
I appreciate that immensely. Kirsten represents the very best in nursing leadership, and we are so fortunate to have her not only in nursing, but in the community. Thanks, Kirsten.
Okay, nurses, let's learn a bit about you. First of all, a little bit about how you got to where you are today and where you are today. Tell me where you are, where you're working, a specialty if you've got one, and when you graduated from Trent. We'll start with Natalie this time.
Well, I'm here as the manager of collaborative practice at Peterborough Regional Health Center. This is a portfolio that allows for us to be able to support nurses and all interprofessionals with education and professional practice. My background was originally in pediatrics, having graduated from Trent in 2005 and joining the team here at PRHC in the NICU. I was able to transition some of those interests into graduate work, where I became an individual passionate both about nursing and about bioethics. And so those two similar topics were able to provide a jumping off point for a deeper commitment to nursing and also to leadership. A few years ago, I started working in leadership at the Central East Lynn, but couldn't wait to come back to my hometown. And so when the opportunity in this department came up, I applied and was fortunate enough to be invited to be able to be the manager here. My staff include advanced practice nurses as well as our wonderful clinical nurse educators. And together we've been able to do some phenomenal work together that I'm so proud of. Just today we are upskilling some of our nurses from surgery, medicine, and the operating room to critical care, as well as hosting an orientation, as well as making our way around the hospital to say Happy Nursing Week to all of our nurses and interprofessionals as well, because as nurses, we celebrate ourselves and we celebrate others as well.
Wonderful. Scott.
Sure. So I've had a bit of a winding road. I entered the nursing program as a bit of a late bloomer, so to speak, a mature student, and I graduated in 2014. Previously, I was a classical musician and a small business owner, and among other things, so quite different. But I really wanted to do something that mattered, and I found that for sure at home at Trent. My last year of work at Trent, I got an opportunity to work with some leadership at PRHC. And I found that I did a bit of a thesis, and it really emboldened me to really strive for great leadership, great leadership and communication work, and that led me to a position at. One thing I have been passionate about is creativity and leadership, and that kind of got me into computers and programming and some things that really kind of that intersected with nursing a little differently than what most people might think. And so that led me to a job into Northumberland Hills Hospital, which is where I am now, and into a project management role and an informaticist role. And what informatics is kind of the intersection, the collaboration of nursing and or clinical activities with data and computer science. And so what we need to know, of course, is that in order to do our nursing roles these days, is that computers are often a part of it. And perhaps 35 years ago, it was a lot more difficult to foresee that, but now it's just a part and parcel of everything that we do. And so really that was my kind of focus. And I think one of the things that I love to do is communicate and collaborate and really bring that sort of social engineering part to the leadership and informatics role. So right now what I do at Northumberland is I'm a project manager of a clinical information system upgrade, which is a huge upgrade in the Central East Lynn, as well as provide informatics and support for all of our interprofessional staff, as well as our leadership staff as well.
Very cool. So every healthcare professional is going to have a different view of their role in responding to the pandemic. And you folks have very different roles, yourselves. People in urban centers are going to see things differently than people in rural areas. Meanwhile, people who are working, say, in long-term care situations are going to be seeing things completely different that way. I think you all have your own challenges. And I'm wondering how things are where you're working. This time we'll start with Scott. How are things in Northumberland?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think that, I can echo probably a lot of sentiments with hospitals around Ontario and really Canada and the world. They're tense in the sense that we're always in a preparatory and waiting stage of what's the next challenge we're having to face. When COVID was first kind of on our way, we were lucky in Canada that we hadn't had too many cases. So we were able to prepare and try to foresee what our challenges would be. And so I was fortunate to be involved with a lot of meetings, preparatory meetings saying, okay, what will we need? What kind of assessment centers will we need? How will we plan in order to if we have an influx of COVID patients, how will we respond? And so it's really been part of that preparation that's just provided the support. And I think we have a good foundation at our hospital in terms of our mood and what we're feeling. Our staff are worried because the PPE, which is professional or protective equipment, is low. Stocks are low, and they're always waiting to see when the next dry spell of face masks or face shields or gowns will be. And so that's a worry. Our staff are worried about that, and we're worried about when that long-term care home that has 10 patients having to come to the hospital, what we're going to have to do for them and how we'll have to support them. So I know that that we're waiting, and more or less, I think other hospitals have had it worse than us. I know that other communities have had it worse, so we're very lucky. But we're really trying to prepare for what the worst might be, and always in that state of readiness.
And how are things in Peterborough?
I think that the morale is strong, and one thing that really jumps out at me in terms of a theme is this whole notion of teamwork. I've seen individuals really from all walks of the healthcare system work so well together with the common goal around keeping the community safe, our patients safe, and caring for one another. I would say that here our PPE situation is quite good. We've had an immense outpouring from the community. The community has taken just such great care of us and our healthcare workers through large drives around everything from masks to caps to bands to be able to secure your surgical mask upon. The information I'm getting from our nursing staff is about feeling appreciated by the community, which is a nice note for us on nursing, on this wonderful nursing week, the 200th celebration of Florence's birthday, for us to be able to reflect back on the community, seeing really what nursing has to offer, both at the bedside, in the community, in education, in the boardroom. We're really asserting the strength of our ability to partner and to be right beside patients and our community during this time. And I'm proud of the hospital because of what we've been able to exhibit both at the front line and in the community in our partnership with public health, our new partnership now with long-term care. Our department is co-creating education for these facilities so that we can continue to provide an experience for them and their healthcare providers, which reflects some of the lessons that we've learned along with their realities. So this notion of partnership has been strong, and I couldn't be prouder to be a nurse.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Dr. Woodend, I'm gonna peel over to here for you for a second. You're not working in the hospital, but you're also not working at Trent right now. You're at home. You've got the greatest little basement nook that I know of. What's the working conditions like for you? It's got to be a bit odd.
Odd, but I find it interesting that we talk about social isolation because in fact, we're not very isolated, and thanks to venues like Zoom. In fact, I'm in meetings with colleagues and students 5 to 7 times every day. A great part of my day is that we're actually, in some ways, we've had to explore new ways of reaching out and doing things. And so as you can imagine, in the winter semester, our students' placements, clinical education had to be stopped because we couldn't send them out into clinical after about mid-March. And so we've had to struggle to find alternate ways to help them meet their learning outcomes, to try to keep as many students on track as possible. I work with an amazing set of nurses at the School of Nursing, and there wasn't one complaint as everybody reached out and did extra time to figure out how do we meet our students' learning needs so that we are continuing to graduate strong nurses who are well prepared to work in whatever environment. And the environment right now is very chaotic. We've moved all our courses online for the summer, and the agility of our professors in doing that has been remarkable. And now we start to look at what does this look like come the fall when we can't predict. I know that we've started to flatten the curve and we're starting to open things slowly, but can you actually put a large number of students into the classroom? Is it safe to bring students back into labs? If it's safe, what are the things that we have to change and do? So we have been working on that. Connectedness, I don't know, we've now got bi-weekly Zoom meetings with our students. Our students are reacting incredibly positively and saying, let's keep this up post social isolation, because in some ways, and I think some of what Natalie was saying really resonates, is that we are learning to work in a way more collectively and maybe been forced because we're somewhat apart. So it's been a very interesting experience, and I think we're going to take a lot of new things. I don't know how you feel, Scott and Natalie, but I think we'll have learned some things from this that will actually change the way we function forever.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree.
You talk about the mood of the students, and you're right. Actually, the students I've talked to have been remarkably buoyant about this entire endeavor, and I mean, this is one of those generational shaping moments in time, and I'm blown away by the fact that they are so buoyant and so resilient. And I'm wondering if that buoyancy and resiliency is spilling over into hospital life as well. Natalie, tell me a bit about the mood. How are nurses and doctors and hospital staff feeling during this crisis? Because I know the tension is ratcheted so high across society that there's got to be some spillover into the hospital as well.
So I think that at the same time, a lot of healthcare providers stand at the ready, able to assist. I think that very often we're at our best when we're most necessary. Yeah. And so, you know, that preparation that Scott has talked about has provided us with a really good jumping off point for absolutely anything that's required. You know, today, prior to having this lovely meeting with all of you, I had the wonderful opportunity of being able to go out and say thank you to our nurses in person. And what I saw were hardworking men and women who are devoted to patient care and really focused. So I think that, you know, seeing that fills me with a lot of confidence. The morale, from my perspective, is really solid, because I think that we're all in the same place around patient care, and it's a collective concept and idea that all nurses can really get behind. And it's something that, you know, we see from our Trent graduates. I had a nice opportunity to meet lots of new grads today because they're out on our units working really, really hard. And we all have a sense of being, you know, contributing to really good work together right now. And from a professional perspective, that's rewarding to be part of something that is important for patients, for the community, for hospitals, and for nursing.
Wonderful. And Scott, how about where you are?
Yeah, you know what? I echo Natalie's comments. I mean, I think that when the rubber hits the road, nurses in times of crisis are so great in coming together and solving problems. It's really it's quite an amazing perspective, and to look at people working together, finding solutions, and as much as people are working and as much as there's a fear in the community and other places. I mean, nurses deal with life and death all the time. And obviously we all have our specialities, and we all work in our own units in different ways. But the understanding and understanding what needs to be done, and the new sense of purpose. I think, Natalie, you almost kind of went that way, is that we really have a new sense of purpose. It's like, how do we best overcome this crisis? And again, it warms my heart, to be honest, when you're down there and being able to see what's happening. And when there's a new proposition and, hey, maybe we could try this, there's very little resistance in saying, okay, let's try it out, or maybe we can do it this way or that way. And there's the ability to mobilize communication and problem solving is just phenomenal. And I think that is certainly should be echoed. And I really appreciate. I get to be on a call. Our chief of staff he has guests on every Sunday night with the hospital leadership and other clinicians who are in the ICU and so forth, who have a real huge stake in the COVID preparatory and stuff to worry about. Is that he's had guests on from New York, from India, from different areas of the world, and they've talked about what their environments have looked like, what's been happening. And as much as it puts a bit of a realness to things, because I'm really fortunate to be in a hospital right now where we don't have the number of cases that some of these other places have, but to understand what's happening and what we need to do to get there. And we're all working together. Our physicians, our nurses, all staff who have any sort of stake in the game, so to speak, are really working together. And I think it really improves the mood of our staff, and puts on kind of almost like a positive spin to something that obviously is very negative.
It's interesting. You talk about the positivity, and you talk about that teamwork until there isn't a team anymore. At the end of the day, you folks are leaving the hospitals and you're going home, and I'm wondering how it feels to be a frontline worker right now. Obviously, the chances of there being an incident where you are associated, involved, in contact with people who potentially have COVID-19, that's got to have an impact on you. How does it feel when you're leaving work for the day and going home? How are you carrying this? We'll start with Natalie this time again.
Well, I think that we've been fortunate to have a lot of information about infection control. And so for myself and for my staff and for all the nurses here at the hospital, proper infection control practices are central. Our department has been, really charged in cooperation with IPAC for providing that PPE education, donning and doffing, for example, which are very important concepts in infection control. We've worked really hard to be able to share our lessons within the hospital as well as with our partners in long-term care, for example. So with that in mind, I have a sense of confidence. Now, that's evolved over time, right? Because we started COVID in one place and we're now in another place. So that comfort has evolved over time. But, individuals who work in nursing education, for example, it's a privilege for us as well as a responsibility to try our best to have some practices that are really solid, because that's part of the way that we nurse for our nursing colleagues, is by being able to share these safe practices and ideas that will allow them who are also proximate or even more proximate to patients to be able to work safely. So at this stage, when I go home, I feel safe and secure. I also have a really supportive family. They're proud of my work as a nurse, as well as a really supportive community that's really proud of my role as a nurse, and all of that feels great. I had a nurse come to my office Friday to tell me that she's never been prouder to be a nurse, and this is an individual who's worked as a charge for a long time.
Wow.
So there are lots of pieces of evidence, like Scott said, if there is a silver lining, it's nurses being able to look inwards as well and to see the strength within our profession and what we have to offer, which is both collaborative and also unique. Individuals positioned as advocates, as educators, individuals who are able to change practice, to guide practice, and to bring people together. All of that is really well suited within our profession, and we've expressed it beautifully.
And Scott, how you doing, man?
Good. Sure. So I have my mother who is living at home with us right now. So there's a bit of an added kind of, I mean, I've got 2 kids trying to keep them occupied, but also, having a mother who's over 70, I'm quite cognizant of what I'm touching at the hospital, who am I interacting with. And really, our hospital staff have been really great at supporting everyone. And so I can work at home, which has been good. Unfortunately, I've had to go in a lot, but there's that understanding. And the Natalie indicated the education, and the education is really important. Understanding how we, doff and don, how we make sure that we are enabling good practice, which is so important. And I think a lot of times, I think perhaps in the past, some people may be complacent, but now is certainly everybody aware. And having specialized teaching towards COVID has been really, really important. And so really my goal, and when I'm there, is that I have to be as aware and have best practice and try to communicate with people when I can over, Zoom and so forth. And I think, to be honest, though, I mean, it's more of an underlying thought. It's I know it's always there, but really your role as someone who is supposed to support your clinicians and your nursing staff, that's my number one priority, and I really take that to heart and want to make sure that the best activities are first, and really the ensuring that safety and everything is also there as well. But really, what I want to do is to ensure best practice. Yeah,
absolutely. Dr. Woodend, I'm wondering, when nurses well, before they're nurses, when students are at Trent University and they're prepping for their lives and their careers in the area of healthcare, what do you do to help prepare them so that emotionally they're ready for situations like this, not just at work, but that whole work-home balance as well?
We start in their first year by talking about the profession of nursing, and I think we do, and there's actually is a first year, first semester course now where they are introduced to some things like mindfulness and so on, so that right at the start they start to have a more inner awareness of their responses to things. It's quite interesting because we've had conversations. We had a lovely conversation with the group from PRHC last week in a focus group, and we've had meetings with other groups. And one of the strong things we're hearing that if we need to do something in our nursing education is to ensure that our graduates are resilient. And we do try to build, so even when they do practice on the units and they debrief with their teachers afterwards, or they're doing a simulated learning scenario and there's a debriefing, all of those things help to build resiliency, the capacity to reflect on what you've done and think about alternative ways of doing things, and learning to share with your colleagues, because that's part of resilience too. I must say I'm thrilled to hear from Natalie that she's been out there working with some of our new grads, and one of the things that she is observing is resilience. But I do think that given that within the last approximately 20 years, we've now had 3 outbreaks of a coronavirus, that we are going to see a future where this is our future. And so we are going to need to graduate nurses who are very resilient. And so we'll continue to look at how we do that.
I hate to do this because you folks aren't on the floor or anything right now, but I'm going to put you to work. As healthcare workers, you've been talking to concerned citizens for the last couple months, and they're nervous, they're scared. That's not just in the hospital; that's across society. And I'm wondering what kind of advice you give to patients and to people who come into your building and are concerned about COVID-19, their day-to-day lives. And trying their best to stay safe. What advice do you have for them? I'll start with Scott.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I mean, this kind of conversation is kind of with everybody right now. We're all talking about it, whether you're in healthcare or not. And I think really my advice would be to listen to the experts. I'm an expert in certain things, but really, I mean, there are those who dedicate their lives. I mean, epidemiologists dedicate their lives for this. And we really need to disregard the conspiracy theories and really look at what the experts are saying. And as much as, you know, we love to have great conversations, which let's leave it at that and really take what experts are saying. I think when you enter a hospital is that the hospital have procedures, they have standards, and they have ways of doing things. Look at what those standards are, go in and say, if you must have a mask, you should have a mask, put a mask on. Try to be proactive in those kinds of things. I know for myself, what I try to do is I try to be that person who hopefully people look to. And so I make sure that I go out with a mask, and I actually take I have little safety glasses too, just in case, but I have a mask, and I just, you know, don't touch your face. Try to stay away from people if you're able to, and really just, you know, as much as it's difficult. I think it's more difficult in the beginning, but really to socially isolate as best as you can without having to lose that social interaction and care.
Wonderful. And the same question for you as well, Natalie.
I echo Scott's comments about looking to the evidence. I think that it's very stabilizing to be able to look at what we have in terms of current research. I also think it's important, and I share this with nurses, for individuals to take care of themselves. Dr. Woodend had talked about mindfulness. These are all concepts that are so important right now. Things are rapidly changing. I think that there's a lot of anxiety-provoking opportunities during this time because we just don't know what's around the corner. And so for all of us to be able to observe what we understand about anything from social distancing to PPE, while also trying to reconnect with what helps us feel better as humans, whether that be mindfulness or spending time with people you love through new technologies, for example, like what we're doing today. I think that that's really important. It can be quite grounding. I've experienced it as being really grounding.
Dr. Woodend, you do have some background in epidemiology. Your thoughts and your advice for people listening to this about how concerned they should be about COVID-19 and what they can do to make themselves feel at least a little bit better in their day-to-day lives.
Oh, I think that we have to be adjusting to a new normal with letting it dominate our thinking. And I think it's a combination of what Scott's saying. We're very blessed in Canada. When you look around at for instance, the disagreements in the UK or in the US, where multiple voices are influencing decisions that are made, we've been really lucky in Canada in terms of the consistency of information that's coming out at the national level. If you look at Government of Canada websites, you look at Ontario websites in relation to COVID, the fact that they've got a COVID checklist. If you suspect you have the symptoms, you can go on and just go through that and be guided as to what to do, and our local public health units. So very much pay attention to the experts, and then use a lot of common sense. The social distancing, keeping 6 feet away. I find it very interesting because I go into the, you know, gray hair granny hour at my local shopping center or my local Foodland, and every once in a while there is someone in there who just doesn't quite get it. And I tease because I talk about putting my glasses down and giving them that look that says not suitable for nursing, and getting them to back away the 6 feet. It's changing the way we do things, isn't it? And I find as I watch TV now, for instance, and they're getting close to each other, that how much that's influencing the way we are. But it is, listen to the experts, as Scott says, and be careful of your own internal self. I was reading an article just the other day that's suggesting that astronauts, when they get three quarters of the way through their trip, they start to go through some mood changes and have some more struggles with mood. And I think we're in that stage now because we're seeing the plateau. And so we're now all thinking that a normal or new normal could be coming, and we're impatient for it. And this may be a time when, in fact, we're starting to have more struggles with mood. And so I think we need to make sure that we take better care of ourselves and reach out to our support systems, make contacts in all the ways that are now possible, like we're doing right now.
That's fantastic advice. Now, here we have a situation where I'm going to ask you about your Trent experience, and of course we have, you know, the dean of the department looking over your shoulders. But Natalie, I want to know.
Change our grades now.
Yeah, it's too late.
It's too late. Yeah.
I think you're doing okay anyway. So, Natalie, I'm wondering your Trent experience. How does it inform? How does it guide you in the work that you do? Not just during COVID-19, but also, yeah, during COVID-19.
I think that the most unique aspect of my Trent experience was this ability to blend nursing science with the humanities. It allowed me to be someone who is a strong scientist and a strong caregiver at the same time. And for me, that has informed my entire nursing career. And so this opportunity to be a well-rounded individual who's also been able to engage in different components of my nursing self, which includes bedside work, it includes academic work, it includes decision-making work, it includes leadership work. The experience at Trent taught me about being a holistic thinker, and that has also made me, from a nursing perspective, an individual who's been really interested in seeing my nursing self from various different vantage points. And it's made for a wonderful career that I'm very proud of.
And I think there's probably a number of people who are proud of you at this moment right now.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Scott, how does Trent help form you? Has it gotten you ready for this moment in time?
Sure. Can I use Natalie's answer?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
No, then I'm going to ask you it again.
No, sure. No, I mean, everything she said too. Okay, to be really frank, I mean, I think one of the things that has really stuck with me and certainly has been immersed into my practice is the ability to be a role model and be a collaborative resource, and for someone to be that person who can help and work towards getting a problem solved and work towards creating something amazing. As nurses, I think people don't realize the amount of background you need to have in terms of understanding and how you treat patients, how you treat your colleagues, and how you interact with people. There's a lot of social involved in being a nurse and being able to communicate with people. And I really embrace that, and I really respect that I had the opportunity to work, and I feel very fortunate to have the ability to, or the opportunity to work with leadership at Trent and professors at Trent who really embraced that, who took that, that holistic perspective to the next level and really said, okay, this is what you're thinking. I see that you're engaged. I want to make you more engaged. I want to feed what you're trying to do and make it more. And I think as a person and as an employee, as a nurse, is I take that to the next level too in my work. And so I see somebody who has an interest in something or who's trying to work towards a problem and a solution to a problem, is that how do I help you get there? And even if it's something where you say, I need to put you in contact with somebody, or I can help you, it's that understanding and that willingness to do so. And I think if we're always looking to get to the next level, then we're really doing ourselves a service, and I think we're doing others a service as well. And that's really what I've taken. I mean, there's so many things I've taken. I had such a great experience at Trent, and so fortunate to have involved with everybody there. And Kirsten was there when I was there, which is awesome. And she was such a great advocate. Kirsten, thank you again for the work I was doing. And I hope that, I mean, all of our students who come out of Trent can kind of embrace the same sort of values and holistic perspective that Natalie had discussed as well, and put that into their practice.
Respect, value, these are wonderful words. And I want to wrap up by going back to the Dean of the Department and giving you one last opportunity to wish nurses the best during Nurses Week, because you know what, they are valued, they are appreciated, but I think that you have a special insight, and so I'd rather hear it from you.
Well, I don't know. I think Scott and Natalie's insight has been, I tell you, I'll have a smile on my face for the rest of the day. Scott and Natalie to have heard our graduates going out into the world as you two have done. And I think you're representatives of everything that the Trent nursing graduates, but also that nurses can do to make a difference. So I want to reach out and thank every nurse for the amazing things they do. But I also want to make sure that I thank every one of our clinical partners, PRHC, NHH, Ross Memorial, our long-term care facilities that we work with, all of the agencies that we work with that accept our students every semester and every year, and who make them feel welcome and help them turn into the kinds of caregivers that we've talked to today, Scott and Natalie. So thank you.
And thank all of you. It's incredible because I know how busy you are. I know how busy you are kind of doing that balance between work and home life. So you being here today is greatly, greatly appreciated. You being here today during Nurses Week is even more greatly appreciated. So I want to say thanks to all of you for joining me today.
Pleasure.
And that's it, folks. This has been our first TrentUCares Trent Voices conversation, and I think it went okay. So thank you. I want to reach out to the viewers and listeners as well, because this is only the first one. We do have more great content coming up. In 2 weeks' time, we're going to be talking to some educators and talking about how their lives have been turned upside down and what they can do to maybe help parents who are feeling a bit frazzled as well. Again, please visit TrentU.ca/alumni for the interviews coming up. As well, follow us on our social media, and you can get those social media channels also at TrentU.ca/alumni. Thank you very much, everyone. Farewell. Stay safe.